Hello, welcome to December 20th, 2022. My name is Kurt, and this is my daily Good Life meditation video. This is something that I do every morning, just after waking up. A little bit behind schedule. It's 4:31 right now, a.m. And I just slept in just 30 seconds, a minute. And I had to attend to Rudy just a little bit, so make sure he didn't need to go outside. Here he comes, coming back. And so I do this. Oh, it's Ollie, actually. I thought it might be you. Could hear that. And there's Rudy. Now that both dogs are here. So I do this every morning in order to remember my life objectives and principles, those which are outlined in my book, Going Alone, which is the story, record, and mission of my life, besides my family, my daughter in particular. I first talk about the last 24 hours, including my sleep. See how I did. See where there was areas that I hit the mark, missed the mark, and find where there's room to improve. And then recite the Good Life Creed, all 7 objectives and 33 principles, and then go over the coming day and plan for how I'm going to take it on, and what I'm going to do, and how I'll prepare myself as much as I can for the unexpected. I guess it is possible to be prepared for the unexpected, with a plan of sorts, a plan for response at least. Okay, with that, let's get started. I see both boys have settled back down. Pardon me. Oh, and good morning, Parker. First, last night and yesterday. I slept all right. I did wake up before the alarm and meditated on work. Don't know why I thought too much about it. I feel like I've got as much in hand as I possibly can. Don't know how I could do better right now. I'm trying my best. It would be like trying to reflect on how I can run faster when I'm already running as fast as I can. Well, there's of course I don't want to go down this distracting track, but there's ways to run more efficiently, especially what is the goal? Well, the goal is to make the world a better place through my projects, and I'm running at my peak performance in terms of efficiency, speed, and dedication. Certainly all of those things. So I don't know what I could do that would be better, other than to be a different person with different skill set and experience, background, education, etc. So I'll probably still get up, because I guess I lack I lack any way to be really settled and satisfied with that. I want to get better. I want to do better. I want my projects to go better. I guess that's the goal, right? I mean, the worker ant hauling a dead insect, or a piece of a dead insect, back to the nest. It's going to be constantly striving to find new ways around obstacles, or more efficient routes to go, better way to grasp and hold its prize. That's what I am too. I guess we all are. Okay, the Good Life Creed. My 7 objectives are as follows. Number 1 is to be always ready to die. To have everything safely settled in an active sense. Still working on things, but settled. My life affairs, for example. Like, first thing I did this morning after I got up was I was checking all the bank accounts to make sure that everything had been paid. Not all of the bank accounts, just the ones on my main bank. Make sure Emily got her allowance for her school. Make sure all the bills were paid. Make sure there was enough to cover other things. So that's what I mean. Settled. Active, but settled. Likewise, my human relationships and my relationships with my dogs. Settled. And I did have a moment with Rudy earlier. Ollie was still in the other room. And Rudy and I just had a moment sitting here together. I talked to him a little bit, and we're settled. And then my life's work, my book, Going Alone, is written, edited, and complete. I mean, I'm still working on it. I added a new damn principle the day before yesterday, on Sunday. Principle of family. So, I mean, all of these things, the affairs, the relationships, and my life's work, continue to be efforts, but at any particular time they are settled. I can die and have left my life in a settled state, as much as a dead man can leave his life in a settled state. That's the purpose of principle number one. Principle number two is to make good. This is actually objective number two. Wow, I'm still on the objectives. Objective number two is to make good and effective use of my time. Emphasis on effective. Like, my job is a good and effective use of my time. I make the world a better place through my job, especially given that I work in the public sector where I'm improving the well-being of the residents in the community. Number three is to develop and maintain good life objectives and principles. Develop and maintain good and sound, there you go, life objectives and principles. Sometimes it's better to go with the rote. It comes out clear. You've worked on it, Kurt. You make use of that. I've just added, what threw me off a little bit was that I was trying to remember to include the word objectives and principles in that sentence, in that utterance. And that's what I do in this daily meditation effort. Next is to cultivate, my next objective is to cultivate good emotional reactions. To just react well to the coming day, to whatever circumstance, challenge, opportunity arises. To not fly off the handle, especially when things go south and bad, which I'm still want to do. I haven't done it in a long time, but I know it's in me, because I do panic a little bit when things go bad. I'm getting better. I like to be more like Yumiko. She doesn't panic. Next is to perform good actions, doing good things, and then to recognize true limits and true opportunities so that I can see where my capabilities and my reach, how far they extend, so I don't try to grasp at things beyond me. There are things that might take work to get to. That's within my reach. But some things will just simply never happen. They're, in any reasonable sense, by my own reasonable standards, beyond me. And it's good to know what those are. But there are other things that are within my reach. Oh, it's good to know what those are. Next is, finally, the last objective is to do just one thing at a time. Just a second. One thing at a time, after all. To do just one thing at a time, and to do that thing slowly and deliberately and carefully. Boy, yesterday, and there was that one long meeting. It was supposed to be an hour, and it turned out to be like 2. Pardon me. And I was doing a strong effort of being deliberate in that capacity, one thing at a time. Although I did have to multitask a few times because I was sharing my screen, and I needed to be displaying things, so I had to bring it up. But I'm getting much better at that, at being able to manage my attendance. All right, now my 33 principles, as follows. Number 1 is the principle of war. I want to always be fighting against anything that I already believe or anything that is proposed to me of any importance, seeming importance, that I should believe or that I wish to onboard myself. Again, of seeming importance. I'm not concerned about mundane claims being proven. It's the serious stuff, especially the serious stuff that I already believe. Oh, sorry. And that's why the next principle, the principle of reason, is so important, because it is the filter that I use, or the tool that I use to examine belief or propositions of what should be believed in order to see if they are sound. And the three sub-principles of that are honesty, actually four. Honesty, objectivity, doubt, and humiliation. I want to be honest with myself and others, objective in my view, skeptical, and ready to confess my ignorance when I don't know, and be grateful to have my ignorance uncovered so that I can move past it and get closer to truth. Okay, the next two principles go together. This is number 3 and number 4. These are the homunculus and the anchor hold. The homunculus is my reminder that it doesn't seem like I have a soul. It seems like I'm quite a mortal beast, subject to imminent death. Nothing will survive this, and that's the second principle, the anchor hold, the reminder that what I am is subject to dissolution and absolute gone after I'm dead. Without a soul, there's nothing to survive my passing, and nowhere to live, and no supernatural agency, no God to manage all of that. It's just this little spark of consciousness that's awake inside me for the moment, soon to dissolve away. All right, the next principle is it's called the home of good and evil. Without God, without guiding force or anything that set things up, it doesn't appear that there's any absolute right and wrong. Good and evil are opinions that we maintain, that we have to work hard at to hold them well, to have good opinions of what is good and bad. And that means that the responsibility is on us to do that, because it boils down to ultimately quite subjective opinions. Discussion and debate and negotiation are needed to reach a settlement and agreement among us. The next principle is called the principle of purpose. And there are 3 purpose in my life. These are, number 1, to be a good husband and father. I call that the sub-principle of biology. Fulfilling biology's mandate, probably the only really objective standard that life offers, is the imperative to reproduce and create copies of ourselves before we die. My second purpose is a decided purpose, which is to be a virtuous human being, where pursuing virtue, and where virtue is defined as striving towards the improvement of the well-being of thinking creatures. And then the third purpose is whatever personal mission I undertake. And in my case, it's the continued sharing of my book, Going Alone, and the Good Life Creed, these 7 objectives and 33 principles that I'm relating now. And I do that through this video. It's my main mechanism, my main vehicle for sharing. Therefore, once this video is done, given that my life is otherwise settled, my life is done. So when I hit the end button just now, my life will be done at that point. True, not really done until I upload it, but it's more poetic to say when I'm done as soon as I hit the button. All right, next is the atomic principle. Everything is made of little bits and pieces, atoms, molecules that are subject to fall to pieces. So too you and I. Then comes the principle of nature. Everything has some particular nature. It's good to recognize what the nature of those things are. I was in a meeting yesterday when I was thinking about the nature of my coworkers and what to expect of them in those meetings. And I think it helped. I was being more reasonable and realistic in my anticipations. I can look at the nature of everything, and I do. Look at the nature of my stage and station in life, and my career, and my roles, my various roles: husband, father, citizen, etc. YouTube content creator, all those things, author, and how to switch hats and fulfill the mandates of each of those roles, or the foibles of each role, and the consequence and the reality of each role, the stress of work, the hard labor of my book, the focus of being a parent, the attendance that comes with being a spouse, all of those things. Okay, next is the next principle is called the pirate ride, which is my simple assertion that free will is a very convincing illusion. We're not free. It doesn't mean our lives are mapped out, but our lives are compatible with what's happening all around us. Our decisions are influenced overwhelmingly by circumstance and by our past precedent, the inertia of what we are. So, what to do with that? Especially because I can't seem to convince myself of that. I believe that free will is an illusion, but I rarely ever operate with that. Imagine how I could change my life if I could. If I could somehow convince my mind that that was the case. I mean, I'm convinced at the level of introspection, but I quickly forget when I'm operationally working within as part of the world. Because I don't think we're designed to carry that. In my ways, we're almost like, it's part and parcel of what we are. We wouldn't be so motivated. We wouldn't be so driven to survive and to take the world seriously and to do well and to raise our children and protect our homes if we thought that free will was, if we genuinely believed that free will was not our own or anybody's for that matter. Just very, very complex chemical reactions. How serious can you get around that? I guess you can't. So nature doesn't seem to allow us to do that. Well, it's not that it's not allowing it. It's just that any creature that did do that wouldn't survive long and wouldn't be here. So the creatures that are here are the ones that behave as though free will were true. Okay. The next principle is called maturity, and it has three sub-principles. Two sub-principles: wisdom and fortitude. Isn't there three? I thought there was a third one. Maybe it's just those two. They're all in the book. Maturity has principles of... Remember, Kurt, it's only half a day today. Yay! There is three. Wisdom, fortitude, and integrity. Yeah. Wisdom is what we need in order to do better in life. The wisdom of remembering our past successes and failures so we can strive to do better. Fortitude is the strength to do better. And integrity is the resultant consequence of a life and decisions made in alignment with best practice. And we can enjoy the integrity of our actions matching our values and our experience by virtue of our strength. Excuse me. Now comes the social principle. It's a recommendation to be a social being, even if we're introverts, which so many of us seem to be. Still, it's good to develop relationships and be part of communities, to work hard, to labor and endeavor together. Sounds like a speech. And the sub-principles here are diplomacy, which is what we do when we work together to come up with agreements about what constitutes justice, the second sub-principle. And then conspiracy is when we work together. I like to say link arms in to pursue the justice that we've conspired together, that we have we have diplomatically worked together to come to an agreement over. It's an elegant adult thing when it can be done. Okay, here now we've arrived at my new principle, which still kind of amazes me that it took me this long, 7 years, to add this principle. I guess that's reflective of my how I came at all of this, which is this whole going alone thing. I came at it from the perspective of the loner in the wilderness, coming and then realizing that that was ultimately not a good direction to keep at for an entire lifetime, but to come back after having gone alone, after the quest, to build a family and become a part of community. So this last seeming principle, at least at this point, the principle of family, has finally arrived. And there's a sub-principle here called catalyst. Family, of course, is the ultimate purpose. It's the ultimate mission. It's the thing that allows us to fulfill the biological mandate of perpetuating our species, which our very essence gives us great satisfaction in having children, even though it's hard work, and raising them. It permeates our life with purpose and meaning. Likewise, the hard work of finding a good spouse to spend our life with, to build a home, and to take care of the family together with. These obligations then catalyze our every effort. They make us work harder and be more genuine, to take more seriously our role as adults and to care for our families. Family delivers purpose of a sort. I like that. There are other sorts of purpose too. All right, I'll leave that one at that. I have a feeling we have some maturing to do of that particular principle, as would be expected of a new one, right? Find ways to nuance it, find ways to speak it better. But I'm pleased with the way that came out, if I do say so myself. I'm satisfied with this principle. It's been a long time coming. Okay, the next one is public speaking. This is a principle that suggests we work to be good communicators, both written and spoken. And there are several sub-principles here. The first is best words. This one suggests that we will cultivate a great vocabulary and then learn how to use it well. Not in a showy way, but in a way that helps to convey our meaning more clearly. Eloquence comes with practice and modeling. Not modeling like fashion modeling, but we watch others who speak well, who are eloquent, and then we can learn skills. We can learn how to tell stories. We can learn how to compose a presentation in such a way to make it compelling and interesting and eloquent, using good words, best words. Swear to goodness, I added something here. There's like four sub-principles here. Eloquence is one of them. So best words, eloquence, prudence. Oh yeah, I did. Prudence and, gosh darn it, felicity. And I forgot to look it up. I was going to look it up yesterday. Prudence means the ability to filter our utterances through our value system. And I think felicity means to be when our communications are taking into account our emotional state. And I don't mean it to be like if we're having an upset day, it doesn't mean that we have to express that upset day, but it's being accommodated by what we're saying, right? Even if it's being restrained. And then the last one there, it's not going to be in that book because I added felicity recently, and I need to remind myself to look it up. What is the difference between prudence and felicity? And then what was the last one? I think, was that it? I better double check. This is the kind of thing that when I'm doubting like this, and whenever I add a new principle, it's like throwing a rock in the lake. Kind of sends ripples everywhere. It's hard to do things. Oh yeah, there's the two nasty ones, rumor and gossip. I don't engage in those. Yeah. Okay. See, they're all the principles and objectives are laid out here and all throughout, and then you can read a summary of what it is. It goes into more detail. This book just covers that in one chapter called The Good Life, and then I have another book that I've written that I'm currently editing called The Good Life itself, which the whole book deals with just these objectives and principles. More like an expanded glossary of sorts. That book has a lot of potential, but it needs a lot of work. Yeah. I'm up to it, slowly but surely. But I'll be satisfied dying without it being published. That's fine. All right, next is, I think temperance is next. And then that's the opening volley on a series of 5 principles. Temperance, which is our ability to control our consumption of all things, in particular our emotions and our actions. Life will not go well. Life's going to have speed bumps. The horror show. Life's going to be terrible sometimes, deadly, awful, beyond belief. The best, that which must be borne, carried, B-O-R-N-E, born. And what we have to bear is the fact that life will not go well, and the fact of the horror show. Really hard to imagine sometimes. And then finally, the last one is, the Feast of Woeful, which is what we do when we get upset, and we spew that upset into the community and our family and our friends and our coworkers. And I recommend not doing that. And when others are doing it, not to consume the feast that they're splattering out upon us. Okay. Next is 2 principles that go together. Distraction, which is what we do with our work and our play and our hobbies, our religion and our thoughts of God. We distract ourselves from the emptiness of the universe without God, the apparent void, which I call the great indifference, which we can witness by going alone, going into a deep, deep wilderness landscape, particularly a desert, not just any desert, but it's got to be a moonscape, like the Bristol Mountains north of Siberia in the Mojave Desert. If you go there alone, go far enough, be at risk and danger, then you might witness the empty, or fail to witness it, as the case may be. And then that's the great indifference. And once we've apprehended that and realized that God isn't real, then it's on our shoulders to do something about it, which is a lot to ask of oneself. So instead, we don't do any of that. We just distract ourselves with keeping ourselves busy with school and career and home and family and all the aforementioned stuff, right? All the way to death. And then even after death, our loved ones carry on about how we'll live forever and see them again, which doesn't appear to be true. There's no good reason to believe any of that. No evidence for this. No good evidence for any soul or God or heaven or hell or forever. Just a brief life and then eternal death. But don't despair. We can still build a good life out of that. But it's incumbent upon us to do the hard work to make that happen. And that's what this is, doing this good life meditation every day is my contribution to that effort, to try to formulate a good life out of the apparent quietude and empty. All right, next is the best seat in the house, to try to be all right with who I am, where I am, and what I'm doing, right here, right now, right who. I love saying that, right who. Now comes a series of 4 principles that go together. These are the restless man, which is the lack of quietude that we feel in late teens, early 20s, some sort of a restlessness for adventure. Not all of us feel that, although I think we all do, but not all of us feel it to such a degree that we want to do anything about it. If you are one of those people, then you better do something about it, which is the next principle, which is to step upon the path of wildness, which is the way to kick off from the safe and sound, or wherever we are, whatever settled state we're in, wherever that is, into something new. And there's no guarantee that it will be successful. You could crash and burn and be ruined and miserable and die. But that's the risk. What could you come back with then is the 3rd principle there, the great life adventure. It's one or more stories that we form and enjoy and create by virtue of the effort of the life that we've lived. And that's the thing that we can carry with us for the rest of our lives. As we go through about the settled and the sane and the life of obligation and family and commitment, we've got our great life adventure in our pocket, the thing that we did, the peace that allows us to, the deeper peace that allows us to one day die in peace. It's a hard thing. It comes at a risk, but it's quite worthwhile, especially, again, if you're one of those like myself and my wife who, at a young age, realized you needed something more to be satisfied with life. Some endeavor and experience out there. That's the great life adventure. After that comes the risk of avoiding risk, which is the 4th principle in this. What would it be? Set of 4. The risk of avoiding risk is, what if you don't do all of that? What if you are one that is driven to that, but you don't do it? Well, there'll be a price to pay later. And life is missing something, even though you seemingly have everything. So I recommend addressing that risk by giving yourself one or more great life adventures, stepping upon the path of wildness at least once, and embarking, especially at a young age, into the world to make your story. Next comes a principle called sin and damnation. This is the consequence of engaging in any of the 8 sins in my worldview, and these are falsity, being untrue, credulity, believing things too readily, faith, belief that is founded on belief, which is nonsense, it's circular, superstition, it's a categorically identified ideas that are nonsense, almost by virtue of their categorical definition, dogma, belief based on tradition and the large canon of work, which, resting on its own existence, isn't merit enough. Then authority, belief founded on being impressed by a person or an institution, their outfit, their garment, their speech, their eloquence, or their funny hat. That's not enough good belief. Merit has to rest on something better than appearance and beauty and form, or the way it makes us feel. And then the 2 negatives are rumor and gossip. Those are sins. Well, they're all kind of negatives, but more explicit negatives. Engage in any of those things: falsity, credulity, faith, superstition, dogma, rumor, and gossip. And we are incurring sins upon, well, good living. And there'll be a consequence to that, only in the here and now. There's no, as after all, there's no afterlife to suffer any damnation. The damnation comes now when we're a damned liar, damned fool, or a damned gossip. Complete oblivion is next. After, if there's no soul, there's no God, there's no heaven, there's no hell, there's no afterlife, then there's no place that we'll see our loved ones again, never have a chance to reconcile the differences, and we'll never see any justice served after death because we won't exist. The bullseye aim is next, a reminder that we shoot for the mark but usually miss. Sometimes we hit it, but rarely. The uphill climb, a suggestion to endeavor towards higher, getting higher today, not higher, but higher up the mountain of life, so to speak, today than yesterday, to turn back and see a more broad and expansive vista than yesterday. Arena and utility, keeping in mind to keep our principles and objectives handy to use in a moment's notice throughout the day. Nothing is enough. This is almost Buddhist, Zen-like suggestion towards embracing less. Or no desire. Haven't really gone down that route yet in my life. And then finally, the principle of fun. A reminder to strive to have a good time, to enjoy life, and to relish the memory of yesterday and the anticipation of tomorrow. There, I did it. Got through my Good Life Creed. It's all 33 principles and 7 objectives. What remains now is to consider the day ahead. I'll finish this, upload this, read the Bible, feed the dogs, walk the dogs, and then I'll come back and start my day in earnest. I have a couple of things I want to do. I really would like to try to tackle that status report today. I really would like to do that. I'm behind on that for weeks. It's been a matter of triage. I expect, though, that I'll be distracted by an incessant mirage of something else. Let's see how I do with this. And then at noon, I'll be done. I'll go and I have a doctor's appointment. I need to check up on a couple of things. I've got like a tumor growing down here. I've known about it for years, but it's getting bigger. I think I'm going to ask the doctor to have it removed. They offered to do that some time ago. Last time I had him look at it. It was a different doctor, but I did take him up on it. But it's getting big, and they did tell me it could turn bad. So maybe I'll get the bad thing removed, potentially bad thing removed. Bad apple, bad tumor. Also, there was something else I can't remember. I better make a list. There were a couple of 4 things that I wanted to go over with the doctor. Wish I could remember what they were. I'll come up with that list over lunch, and then after that I'll go to the beach and spend some time at the beach, which I didn't do yesterday. Nice time. I'll bring my book. I'm reading Lawrence Krauss's A Universe from Nothing. Very good. And with that, I'll finish for today. And I wish you all the best. Remember to be safe, but not too safe. And with this, my life is done. Take care.